Welcome to my channel, guys. I hope you guys are doing well. And today we are going to learn about the theories of international trade. In this, we are going to cover about both classical country-based theory and modern firm-based theory, right? So before we begin with just a brief introduction about international trade, as you know what is trade? Is the exchange of goods or services for some consideration, right? That is basically money. Okay, so whenever a country or a company goes from one country to the another, it is known as the international trade. When more than one country trades, it is known as the international trade, right? So let's move further. There are basically two categories. First is the classical country-based theories and second one is the modern firm-based theory. Now the difference between the two is, first, the classicals always focused on countries, right? They said that countries should become self-reliant and countries should think about itself only, right? Self-focused. The classicals believe the country should be self-focused and they believe they should focus on their own country only, right? And in the modern firm-based theory, this came up after World War II, right? After World War II, when the internationalization started, right, MNC started coming in, then these theories were proposed. We are going to discuss all these theories one by one. Now the first theory is of mercantilism. Okay, so now this theory became popular in 16th to 18th century. Now why did it become popular in this period was because at the beginning of 1500, okay, in the year 1500, many of the new states were formed. New states started forming, right? So when new states started forming, every state wanted to accumulate its wealth and become more rich. This was a theory, right? So this theory became popular in 16th to 18th century and it believed in prioritizing our own country at the cost of the other country as well, right? And it focused on expanding the exports and discouraging the imports, right? Remember this thing, expanding the exports and discouraging the imports. Now in return of the exports, what will be there? In the initial years, in such centuries, say 16th or 18th century, what was the wealth? The wealth was measured in terms of gold or other precious metals. So it believed as more and more exports are going to be there, the country is going to accumulate more and more of gold or precious metals, right? So this was the way of increasing the wealth of the country. Now this theory is also known as the theory of protectionist. Why? Because it focused on reducing the trade in terms of imports. Lesser and lesser imports were made, import duties were imposed at that time. That is why this is known as the protectionist theory. I hope till here everything is clear to you guys, right? Now this theory also has some limitations. First limitation is accumulating wealth at the stake of the other country, right? You keep on increasing your trade by exporting and you're not importing anything. That means the country from whom you are not importing are going to face losses, right? Another thing is they overlook other factors such as country's wealth, then natural resources, manpower, and other skills, capital, etc. It focuses only on accumulating gold or precious metals only. Next is that mercantilist policies were used by colonial power as means of exploitations. As you guys know, right? Countries such as, say, Britain, what it did was, it had colony, say here is colony A, say India. What it did was, it imported raw material, right, at cheaper rate, and by manufacturing goods from such raw material, it exported back to the colonies and made huge profits. So this is how mercantilist countries used to exploit the colonies. Right, I hope this is clear to you guys. If not, then you can comment in the comment section. Theory we have is of absolute advantage, right? So this theory was given by Adam Smith in the year 1776. He wrote a book that is Wealth of Nation. Okay, so in Wealth of Nation, what he did was, he criticized badly the theory of mercantilism. We've already studied this, right, in the previous theory, mercantilism. He criticized this theory and gave the theory of absolute advantage. Now, what he said in this theory was that a country should produce goods that it specializes in its production, right, in comparison to the other countries. So whichever goods a country can produce in comparison to other country, it should produce that good only, right? We are going to understand this with the help of an example as well. Further, this theory assumes that there is only one factor of production, that is labor, right? Besides this, what Adam Smith proposed, that there is no restriction on trade. A government does not proposes any restrictions on trade, and there is a free trade for every nation, right? Now, there are certain assumptions of absolute advantage. First is the lack of mobility of factor of production, that is labor, right? We've studied that is only factor of production, labor. So that means labor cannot move from one country to another. Guys, if you know that this theory was given in the year 1776, so we can say that this assumption could be fulfilled during that time. But if we talk in the current scenario, that is today is a globalization era. So this theory is not going to be there in today's era, right? Then we have is a trade barrier. That means no trade barriers are there. Free trade is there for the countries. Next is the trade balance. There is no trade balance. What is basically the trade balance? Your exports are equal to your imports. Your exports are always equal to your imports. Is it possible in today's era? No. Okay, next we have is the constant return on scales. Now, let's understand this with the example. If I want to produce, say, a loaf of bread, we need 2 laborers, right? And if I want to produce 2 loaf of breads, then 4 laborers. Similarly, if I have to produce 4 loaf of breads, 8 laborers are needed for this, right? So this is the constant return of scale. However, this assumption is also not valid. Why? Because economies of scales are there when we increase our production. As and on we keep on increasing our production, economies of scale are there. Okay, now let us understand this theory with the help of an example. I've taken 2 countries, say country X and country Y. right? We have two products, that is, say, good 1 and good 2, right? Country X is producing good 1, that is 2 units, and country Y is producing 10 units. Further, we have good 2, that is country A is producing 8 units and country Y is producing 4 units. Now, if we simply look at the data, okay, so which country can produce more of good 1 with the factor of production? That means country X has an absolute advantage of producing good 1, okay, with only 2 laborers. So it is going to produce this good only. And country Y, it has absolute advantage of good 2. That means it can produce type of good 2 with only 4 laborers. So country Y is going to produce good 2 only. So in absolute advantage, what are we doing is we are comparing the goods with of the different countries. Which country can produce its goods efficiently? That country is going to produce that particular good only, and it is going to import other good. So in this case, country X is going to produce good 1 and it is going to import good 2, right? And the vice versa for country Y. I hope this is clear to you guys. You know, so third theory is of comparative advantage. Earlier we have studied about the absolute advantage, right? Now we are going to study about the comparative advantage. Now, simply by understanding the meaning of the term comparative, that means you are comparing two things, right? Say X and Y. You are comparing two things. So, this theory was given by David Ricardo, in 1817 in his book, that is Principles of Political Economy and Taxation. Now, what he said that a country is better off in exporting goods in which it has relative cost advantage is greater than its absolute cost advantage when compared with the other country. Right? Now over here we are taking an example of two countries, say country X and country Y. Right? So we are taking two goods into account, good 1 and good 2. Right? So what country X is producing is with 5 units and country Y is producing the same good with the 6 units of labor, right? Similarly, of good 2, this country X is producing with 10 units of labor and country Y is producing it with the, say, 5 units of labor. Now, by seeing the data, we can say that country X has a advantage of producing both the goods, that is good 1 as well as good 2. However, if it is going to produce more of good 2, right, if it focuses on producing good 2 only, it will be able to generate economies of scale, right? As the production increases, our cost decreases. This is what the economies of scale says, right? So it will focus on producing only good 2 and it is going to import good A from country Y. I hope this is clear to you guys, right? By employing more and more labor in good 2, we are going to produce this good and we are going to export this good to the other countries. So this is your comparative advantage, right? Ricardo proposed that even though a country may efficiently produce goods, it may still import them from another country if it has relative advantage lies there. I hope this is clear to you guys. If not, then comment in the comment section. Okay, moving further, we have certain advantage of this theory. Like there are two countries producing goods, only two goods, right? Labor of production is the only factor of production and it is homogeneous. then taste of the countries are similar, then the labor cost determines the prices of two goods, the production of commodities is done under the law of constant return, we've already studied, right, in the absolute advantage. Then two countries trade on the barter system, technological knowledge is unchanged, factor of productions are perfectly mobilized within the country. However, it is immobile in the two countries. Then free trade is also taken into the account. Then transport costs are not incurred, factor of production are fully employed, and then the exchange ratio of two countries is the same. Now, whatever are the assumptions of this theory, these are also the drawbacks, right? If you face a question, if there's a question on what are the limitations of comparative advantage, just quote all these assumptions. Okay, so last theory for today is of Heckscher-Ohlin theory, also known as factor proportion theory. Earlier we studied that in comparative advantage there was one factor, that was labor, right? However, this theory suggests that for any country there are factors of production, say land, labor, capital, etc. So all these are the inputs, right? The factors of production are inputs and they impact the output. That means the products. So every product is dependent upon the factors of production. Now this theory says that, for example, say a country like India, right? In India, what is there? We have labor intensive economy, right? So when you have labor intensive economy, what happens? Abundance of labor is there. So when abundance of labor is there, wages will be low. Wages and salaries will be low. So in such case, in such countries, the production should be based on the labor. Such products should be made that is dependent more on the labor, right? Then only the country can export. And vice versa, countries like US, they have more capital. Over there, the rate of interest on capital is less. Therefore, countries like US can focus on the capital intensive products. Clear? Right. So, the assumptions of this theory says first is that there is a perfect competition in the economy as well as the factors. Then the technology for producing a good is different for different countries but is same for a product produced in different countries. And the last is that factors of production are mobile within the country but cannot move from one country to another. So guys, that is it for today. I hope you have learned something. If yes, then please subscribe to my channel. Thank you and have a nice day.